The word vehicle covers a whole multitude of transportation devices or machines. Your car is a vehicle, but so is a plane. The enormous pieces of machinery that farmers use to tend to their land are vehicles too. Over the past century or so, the human race has invented a wide array of technically advanced vehicles, and some of them are more unique and fascinating than others. Here are some of the most remarkable we've ever seen. A frozen runway is no good to anyone. It's dangerous to try to fly a plane when it's too cold, and having an icy runway means that nobody can take off or land until the ice is thawed. That's no use to runways in very cold parts of the world like northern Russia, where the ice and snow are present almost all the time. To solve that problem, innovative machines are needed. Machines like the heat engine AIST-5TM, also known as Goronic. To describe it in the most basic terms possible, it's a CRAS with a powerful jet engine attached to the front. Deploy one of these on your airfield or runway and all the ice, snow, and even moisture will disappear. Everything gets heated up and evaporates, and you're left with a nice, dry, hot strip of concrete. Only one factory in the world builds the Goronic, the Sofrinsky Experimental Mechanical Plant, which is headquartered in Moscow. The jet engine on the front is a VK-1, an early Soviet turbojet creation of the kind that once featured on MiG-15 fighter planes. They're no longer used in the air, but they're perfect for this job on land. When the USS Pegasus was commissioned in 1977 as the first of the Pegasus-class hydrofoil vessels, she was the fastest attack patrol boat in the U.S. Navy. Only 6 vessels of this class were ever built, with the last one completed in 1982, and the class remaining in service until the decommissioning of the final unit in 1993. The original vision for ships of this type was to partake in NATO operations in the North Sea and the Baltic Sea, but NATO's activities in those areas scaled back over time, so the Pegasus-class hydrofoils moved closer to home to serve as coastal patrol vessels in the Caribbean basin. The primary reason for the creation of the Pegasus class was because NATO, and the USA especially, wanted a small, fast, highly maneuverable warship capable of countering the Osa and Komar class Soviet vessels. At full speed, they were an impressive thing to see on the water. Their top speed, propelled along by a General Electric LM2500 gas turbine, was 55 miles per hour. The downside was that the ships weren't cost-effective, especially when they were relegated to the more mundane duty of patrolling the Caribbean, looking for narcotic traders to intercept. All but one of them was scrapped after decommissioning, leaving the USS Ares as the last of her kind. The roads of India's busiest cities are known for being very busy, to the point where they can sometimes be dangerous to drive on. Even when you're driving safely, owning a large vehicle means you're likely to spend hours trapped in queues. The key to navigating the roads quickly and easily is to have a smaller and more nimble vehicle. IKEA knew that when they opened their first ever store in India a few years ago, which is why they came up with this purpose-built fleet of solar-powered rickshaws. While they can be driven outdoors and are used for deliveries, you're just as likely to find them inside the colossal store, where there are 4,000 solar chargers fitted to the roof to provide them with the energy they need to move around. Up to 10,000 customers visit the store each day, which gives you a sense of how big it is. Without a rickshaw to assist you, it might take you half the day just to walk from one end of the store to the other. Sadly for the rest of us, IKEA doesn't currently have any plans to start using the rickshaws elsewhere in the world. During the 1930s, a very unusual type of train was invented by Michelin, the world-renowned tire company. Michelin had aspirations of doing more than just making tires, and tried to break into the transport market with the invention of the Michelins, trains that ran on rubber tires and were self-propelled, as opposed to relying on locomotives to pull them along. It might sound like a strange idea now, but the concept was briefly popular enough to prompt the Bud Company to build a few Michelins in the USA. They were smoother to ride on than the average train, but not very practical. The tires couldn't bear heavy loads, and a flat tire or two could, and did, lead to whole trains grinding to a halt on a regular basis. Because of those fundamental problems, you won't find any Michelins still in service in France or the USA. But there are still 2 Michelin Railbus ZM516 units running in Madagascar, where they've been carrying passengers since 1937. These days, they belong to a company called Modulo that hires them out for special occasions. Even with this sparing use of the old machines, though, there are still problems with tires blowing out on poorly maintained railroads. The M80 Stiletto is an American prototype naval ship that's said to be the maritime stealth vessel of the future. The problem with that statement is that it's been repeated constantly since the prototype Stiletto launched in January 2006, and it still exists as a singular unit over 14 years later. It might still turn out to be the prototype for the future, but it's a worry that it's been at the testing stage for well over a decade. Putting that aside, this is a remarkable and unique ship. By using a distinctive 5-hulled structure in the shape of an M, the M80 creates hardly any bow wake, making it faster and more agile on the water. At top speed, it can reach 70 miles per hour. Combine that speed and agility with its carbon fiber composite construction, and you have a ship that's perfectly suited to combat situations in shallow waters. From an operational point of view, it's been used sparingly. It was deployed with the U.S. Coast Guard for 2 months in 2008, and was then seen again in 2012 when it retrieved a NASA re-entry test vehicle from the sea. It's officially still in service, but nobody seems to know exactly what's happening with it now. The Red Shark was created to answer a simple question. What if you could ride a bike across the sea? It might not be a question that many people have asked before, but ex-BMW designer Joseph Rubaugh found himself troubled by it. So in 2019, he came up with a solution. It's called the Red Shark, and it's a water bike. Joseph proudly showed off his creation for the first time at the Sea Otter Europe exhibition that year, where it turned plenty of heads. The Red Shark looks like a regular bike crossed with a trimaran, all of which is made from lightweight carbon fiber. Enthused by the success of his original concept, Joseph has since created 3 different models of his water bike: a sport model, an adventure model, and a fun model. The sport and fun models appear to be largely similar, but the adventure model comes with extra storage space for luggage. The only downside is that the Red Shark costs a lot more than your average humble bicycle. Even the humble fun model comes in at just under $6,000. Given that Joseph Rubaugh once worked for BMW and clearly has an interest in bicycles, we can't help but wonder whether he had a hand in the BMW Modulo car M89 built in 1997. We'd hesitate to call it a bike, but we'd hesitate to call it a car too. It's a strange-looking 3-wheeled vehicle that seems to defy classification. Some people even find that it reminds them of a submarine, although unlike the Red Shark, it would be no use to you on the water. This quirky prototype is one of the last vehicles that BMW ever built around the K75 motor, which the company had ceased production of 2 years earlier. There's a 740cc triple-cylinder mill under the hood, which makes the Modulo a motorcycle from a licensing and registration point of view. But you'd be hard-pressed to look at it and call it a motorcycle. In fact, the curious arrangement of the bubble cockpit with the passenger seat positioned directly behind the driver, you can add fighter plane to the list of things that the Modulo resembles. If you cross a helicopter and a motorbike, you come up with the helibike. Or should that be the motorcopter? However you want to think about it, that's the vehicle that the hover surf company of Russia has come up with, and they've named their creation the Scorpion 3. Hoverbikes have been a staple of science fiction for decades, but thanks to hover surf, they're now science fact. The Scorpion 3 is the world's first commercial hoverbike, and it's in service as a law enforcement vehicle in Dubai. HoverSurf doesn't intend their invention to be limited to the police or the military, though. They want to make small personal aircraft available to everybody. Another way to think of the Scorpion 3 would be as a manned drone. The frame of their vehicle is based on a dirt bike, but HoverSurf has combined that with quadcopter drone technology to create a supremely agile and stable device, capable of changing altitude and direction with just the touch of a button. Altitude is limited to 40 feet, so you're in no danger of accidentally leaving the Earth's atmosphere, and computer-assisted steering and speed limitation helps to avert the risk of accidents. Perhaps everyone will have a Scorpion 10 years from now. The SuperGuppy isn't the most graceful name we've ever heard of for an airplane, but it's better than the plane's nickname, which is Frankenplane, a nickname it owes to the fact that it's made from various parts of other planes. There's nothing else in the world quite like this colossal sky vessel. It's the only aircraft ever built that contains and carry a full-sized SIVB stage from a Saturn V rocket in one piece. Only 5 were ever built. Even though the technology is almost antique by modern standards because the first SuperGuppy was completed in 1965, there's still one in service today with NASA. To date, that one surviving unit has flown more than 3 million nautical miles during its long career. Somewhere within its patchwork hull is a Boeing 377 Stratocruiser, although it's been added to and modified so much that it's barely recognizable anymore. Measured from tip to tail, the SuperGuppy is 143 feet long, with a tail height of 58 feet and a diameter of 25 feet. Simply put, it can carry things that other aircraft could never dream of. The purpose of a wheelchair is to provide people with independent mobility if they would otherwise struggle to achieve it. But we know of one wheelchair that can do far more than just help someone get up and down the road or around the house. It's the so-called Russian Kangaroo wheelchair, and it's the first all-terrain wheelchair in the world. This crazy creation came from the brain of Igor Kozarenko of St. Petersburg, who combined a standard wheelchair frame with a large low-pressure tires and a pair of motorized propellers, driven by a 43cc petrol engine. That gets it up to 25 miles per hour on land and around 8 miles per hour on the water. Yes, you heard us correctly. The Kangaroo can cross small bodies of water. The name Kangaroo comes from the long tail-like beam at the vehicle's rear, which helps it to maintain balance. Although it looks quite bulky, the vehicle is actually designed to be fully collapsible to the point where it can be deflated and then folded into the trunk of the average car. Igor started selling the Kangaroo in 2016 with a retail price equivalent to just over $1,000 per unit. Taxiing down a runway isn't a fun experience for a pilot. Planes are designed to move through the air, not run across the ground for long distances. And when they're forced to take long drives across airports to get to terminals or hangars, they're prone to being damaged by foreign objects. Even if they're not damaged, the fuel consumption of a plane taxiing across the ground is extremely high. Here, we present a solution to the problem. It's called the TaxiBot, and it's already in service in Israel. This self-propelled robotic aircraft tractor is an invention of Israel's aerospace industries and is capable of pushing or pulling a plane wherever it needs to go. The plane doesn't even need to have its engine switched on for the process to happen, and the tractors are all electric, so the process consumes no fuel at all. The robots are designed to be fully automated, but if human intervention is required, the pilot can manually control it from their cockpit. It's a simple, neat idea that should be employed everywhere. RussiaOne should have been the future of lightweight rail. It's one of the most stunning, sleek, and futuristic-looking tram designs we've ever seen, and a fully operational prototype was finished in 2014. The idea back then was that a full fleet of the trams would be available by 2018, and visitors to Russia would be amazed by them as they use them to get to and from sports stadiums during the 2018 Soccer World Cup in the country. The design of the tram's exterior had the twin function of increasing visibility for drivers and reducing heat buildup inside the vehicle during warm weather. All 250 people inside would get access to free high-speed Wi-Fi, and music would be automatically selected by the tram's computers based on the weather outside and the time of day or night. There was only one problem. Any city that wanted to use RussiaOne trams had to pay for each unit individually, and there was no central government funding provided to help them make the purchases. As each tram cost upward of $1 million, no city, not even Moscow, chose to go ahead with a purchase. That meant none were on the rails for the World Cup, and the project was abandoned shortly afterward. The prototype is now gathering dust in a warehouse belonging to the Uralmash heavy machine production facility in Yekaterinburg. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, and you will be the first to know when a new video comes out. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.